Right. Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you very much for tuning in tonight. My name is Paul Stanbury. I've been with Naturetrek now for about 26 years. Yeah, I'll be spending the next 15-20 minutes just talking through some of our tours to Norfolk and the New Forest as well. We've been operating trips to both of these areas for pretty much as long as I've been with the company. So they're regions we're very familiar with. We've got some great local guides who live locally, know the reserves really well, know the wildlife, and do a great job leading our tours. So I'm going to start with Norfolk, arguably the UK's premier birding county, or bird watchers throughout the country. Most have probably visited Norfolk over the years. It's almost a pilgrimage to go there and enjoy the fantastic habitats and bird life that abounds. And it's a great county to visit throughout the year. And so we operate tours here pretty much throughout the year. We have our winter trips that run from November through February into March. We've got spring tours and trips in the autumn as well. And the photo I've got here is North Norfolk coastline. So we run our tours, go visit from the Wash all the way down to the Norfolk Broads, and we enjoy all of the key wildlife sites in the county. Norfolk is blessed with some of the best wildlife and habitat in the country. Along the North Norfolk coastline, it's lined with wetlands and dune systems, woodlands, and these areas that attract numerous birds over the course of the year. Our tours in the winter time are based. Well, we do a range of tours. Some are 2-night breaks based in Hunstanton on the north coast, and we have longer 5-day tours that split their time between Hunstanton and the Broads. In the winter, we're exploring the wetlands, looking for the huge numbers of duck and waterfowl and other birds that come down from Siberia and Northern Europe to take advantage of our milder conditions down here in the UK. This is the hotel we use in Hunstanton. It's called the Strange Arms. It's right on the sea. You see from this photo, and it's a great base from which to explore the western side of the North Norfolk coastline. When we're going down to Snettisham, for example, to look at the waders down at the Wash, or exploring reserves, iconic reserves such as Titchwell or Holme or Wells. So the whole of the coastline here is just a patchwork of wetlands and wet meadows, dunes, and woodland. This is the east bank at Cley, looking out towards Salthouse. Marsh harriers are common up in Norfolk throughout the year, and they're a common sight quartering the reed beds, and they breed in pretty good numbers as well in a lot of the reserves. On good days, you need to keep your eyes and ears open for bearded tits, and their characteristic ping, ping, ping call is the first thing often draws your attention to these wonderful, wonderful little birds. Norfolk is famous in the winter for its huge concentrations of wintering geese, in particular the pink-footed geese. And one of the real highlights of the trip here in the winter is to see the huge flocks of geese either flying to their roost in the evening, or flying out from the roost first thing in the morning. And the guides know where to go. They know where to position you. And that really is one of the real highlights is if you've got a nice day with a nice sunset to watch skein after skein after skein of pink-footed geese flying over, wink, wink, winking, wink, wink as they go. They're quite characteristic call on their way to roost. We'll look out over the sea in the wintertime, and you hopefully get see a nice range of sea duck. A beautiful long-tailed duck here. There are also scoter, winter off the sea, goldeneye, red-throated diver, and a range of other seabirds as well. Another of the real highlights of Norfolk in the winter and also early spring, late autumn time is the huge concentrations of waders that descend to feed on the mud flats of the wash. Thousands and thousands of knot. These are mostly knots here in this photograph, and other waders. And as the tide rises, if you get a particularly high tide that covers up the mud, then at Snettisham you get the spectacle of thousands and thousands of waders wheeling around in the sky, look not unlike the huge flocks of starlings that Tom showed you earlier on the Somerset levels. We'll also explore the dune systems here and the woodlands along the edge of the coast. In the winter time, the dunes are home to flocks of snow buntings, very high little bird that's bred up in the Arctic or a couple of places up in Scotland where they breed on the tops of the mountains, but they form little flocks down the Norfolk coast in the wintertime, joined by a few Lapland buntings, and if you're lucky, hopefully shorelark as well, which also winter along the coastline here. My favourite bird of all is the waxwing, and we've not had a good waxwing winter now for many a year, so we must be due a waxwing eruption at some point over the next few years. And North Norfolk coast, since it faces out into the North Sea, is one of their first landfalls for this beautiful bird. So you need to keep your eyes open on the berry bushes, and the ornamental berry bushes for this spectacular species. We also do trips down around the Norfolk Broads as well as the North Norfolk coastline. But we found a really nice guest house called Dairy Barns Guest House, just a little way from Hickling, where we base all of our groups in the Broads these days. Very similar bird life down here. You've got large amounts of reed bed full of bearded tit, bittern breeding here, and wintering as well. Plenty of marsh harriers. Probably the most famous bird of the Broads is the crane. And one evening we'll take you to a place where the cranes come in to roost. And hopefully while we're out here as well looking for the cranes roosting, you've got a good opportunity of seeing barn owls, which are doing quite well in Norfolk these days. And in the winter you often get roosts of hen harrier as well, and maybe even merlin if you're lucky. There are mammals too up in Norfolk, and we'll go out to the coast, hope to see grey seal, and we have some trips timed for November when the grey seals are pupping, and go to visit the reserve at at Horsey and Winterton Dunes, and look for the grey seals and their pups. But we also do trips to to Norfolk and so North Norfolk and the Broads in the springtime as well, a time of year when all the migrants have arrived and the sedge warblers here are singing from the sedge, and the reed warblers are chattering away in the reed beds. The birds are breeding. There's plenty of avocets breeding along the North Norfolk coast and down towards the Broads. But in spring, we're also going to get a variety of migrant birds moving through. So whimbrel come through in decent numbers at the end of April and into May, along with flocks of black-tailed godwits and ruff and a wide variety of other breeding birds, all of them resplendent in their breeding plumage as well. There's things that are sometimes seen a little bit more unusual: black tern, little gull, And in the spring, we'll go down also into the Brecks in central Norfolk to look for the stone curlews, that breed here. We also run trips in the autumn, and Norfolk is very famous actually for the birders. It's most famous for its autumn migration. It faces out into the North Sea. If you get an easterly breeze, then the first landfall for the tired birds that are flying across the North Sea is the east coast of Britain and the north coast of Norfolk. And in the autumn, you get a wonderful range of waders and passerines coming through. You've got green sandpiper, wood sandpiper here on the top left and top right, curlew sandpiper bottom left, and rough too. Later on in the autumn, big numbers of thrushes cross the North Sea from their breeding grounds up in Scandinavia. So it's the first landfall of our wintering fieldfare and redwing, and maybe mixed in amongst them, you'll have a few migrant ring ouzels too. But later on in the autumn, late September into October, if you get a decent amount of easterly winds, then you'll be looking out for some of the more rarer species as well. And the North Norfolk coast is famous amongst bird watchers for the unusual species it turns up in the autumn. We've got here yellow-browed warbler on the top left, red-breasted flycatcher top right, wryneck, and red-backed shrike. It's just four of a whole range of different Eastern and European species that you might have a chance of finding if you're lucky. And over the years, Norfolk's turned up some incredible rarities. The one of the most famous being a bird from far to the west, the red-breasted nuthatch, that turned up at Holcombe in 1989. So that's just a sort of brief overview of the wildlife birding highlights of Norfolk. So we do a range of trips throughout the year. I'm just going to finish now with just a few images on one of my favourite areas, the New Forest National Park, a place I've been visiting ever since I was a small boy. The wildlife here, the birds I'm going to show you, are actually quite similar to the wildlife and the birds that Tom showed you for the Forest of Dean. But it's very quite similar habitats. It's a large area of woodland and lowland heath and bog, and was actually proclaimed as a royal hunting reserve by William the Conqueror in around 1079. It's been mentioned in the Domesday Book. It covers 220 miles of woodlands, wood pasture, and lowland heaths. And it's still managed under the ancient pastoral system. It includes grazing rights, and it's this very ancient way of managing the land that's helped to preserve the character and the wildlife in the forest. As with Norfolk, we run trips here throughout the year, winter, spring, and the autumn. And this is quite a classic view of the New Forest, looking out. This particular spot is up at Acres Down, looking out over the heath and over a large area of mixed broadleaf woodland. We stay in some really nice accommodation in the New Forest. This is the Bewley Hotel, just south of Lyndhurst. A nice hotel with good nice rooms. And we'll explore the forest, the deciduous and also the managed forest of the New Forest. It has some beautiful old beech woodlands and mixed beech and oak woods as well. Home to the classic woodland birds of the UK. We've got wood warbler top left. Sadly, a bird that has declined markedly in the New Forest over the years. It was a common bird when I was going there as a kid. Now, difficult bird to find, sadly. But if you're lucky, you'll still hear the silvery trill of the wood warbler in the spring. Commoner are the common redstart to the right, and then of course the more familiar woodland birds such as nuthatch and marsh tit as well. Although the wood warblers fared very badly, a bird that's actually fared very well over the years is the firecrest, and this is a common breeding bird in the New Forest. In fact, it was in the New Forest that the first record of breeding firecrest in the UK was found back in the 1960s at Boulderwood. But if you've got your ears tuned in now to firecrest, that very high-pitched trill they sing, then it's a bird you can see all over the place. One of the most sought after birds in the New Forest is the honey buzzard, and these are very late migrants. They come in mid to late May, and there are a few spots to go in the forest where you stand a reasonable chance of seeing this very localized raptor. We'll also take you out onto the extensive lowland heathlands as well, looking for some of the special birds of this area. So birds like woodlark, commonly seen. The bird is in full song at the moment. It's a bit of heathland fairly close to where I live, and the woodlarks are really in full song on nice days. One of the classic bird of the New Forest is the beautiful little Dartford warbler. The New Forest is the centre, the hub really of the Dartford warbler population in the country, and they're very susceptible to cold winters. So when you get a cold winter, the range of Dartfords in the warbler in the UK retract back down to the south, and particularly down to the New Forest. They favour the heathlands, dotted in gorse, and they're still relatively easy to see. Out in the heaths as well, up in where you've got little patches of pine trees, you stand a good chance of finding common crossbill, and all three species of reptile, all species of snake occur in the New Forest, and the smooth, including the smooth snake. And for those interested in dragonflies, it's also a great spot to look for dragonflies during the summertime, when we do day trips to New Forest in the summer to look for dragonflies as well as the other birds. Whether you've got lots of dragonflies, then you've got plenty of hobbies as well. Although sadly, again, hobby is another bird that has declined in the forest. It's not quite so easy to see as it used to be in the past. At dusk, we'll head out onto the heaths and hope to enjoy the classic nocturnal birding experience of the forest. And as with the Forest of Dean, this is of course the chirring of the nightjar. The nightjars are common around the woodland edges in the New Forest, and you often also get rolling woodcock over the top as well. There are butterflies to enjoy. There's a pearl-bordered fritillary here. And then we also go back to the forest in the autumn, not only to enjoy the wonderful autumn colours, but to see a range of different birds at this time of year as the finch flocks start to return. There are hawfinch roosts as well. Tom was mentioning about brambling in the Forest of Dean. Well, brambling also occur in the New Forest as well. And we got winter trips looking for brambling, looking for hawfinch, and maybe even lesser spotted woodpecker as well. We have our later winter trips run end of February, early March time, when the lesser spots start drumming and the goshawks start to display. And if you're lucky, maybe great grey shrike too. But as Tom was saying, it's not been a very good year for great grey shrikes this year. I'm aware of maybe one or two birds that wintered in the New Forest this year. And for a change of habitat, since the forest is right on comes down to the Solents, to the sea, we'll also take you down to the coast, down to the coastal marshes around Pennington and Keyhaven, to enjoy the wintering geese and ducks that spend the winter months along the coast here, along with little egrets, marsh harriers, peregrine, a variety of waders as well. So I think it's now 8:15. So I will end my talk here and then pass over to Kerry, and I think we're going to have a break.